Hey everybody, Professor Breckeisen here, and in this yo-yo, we are going to start talking about how to get your marketing strategy started with your projects. So here we are in this current lesson. We're going to be talking about branding and digital presence, and kind of continuing what we've done so far, adding to the past couple of things of your peer review feedback. Since then, you created some SWOT analysis and started looking at your personality and those on your team so that you can start to execute and create a cohesive team for your project that you're going to be working on. And today, what we're going to do is we're going to talk a lot more about branding and getting your product out to the world, because it's great that you have this wonderful idea, but it's going to be even better that people know about it and they're excited about it. So we're going to talk about some strategies to do that. Now, it's important to note that in this lesson, this is going to be like an hour long, or would be an hour long class or 45-minute class on something that can really be an entire semester, even an entire major. So this can be very cliff notes and kind of like thrown at you a little bit. But please take what I'm going to show you and run with it and look at the different sites I'm going to show you. And if you have more interested in this, please look up more information online, ask some faculty or students that might be majoring in like branding and in advertising. They can help you get some really great things and move forward, especially if you're super interested and excited about your project. So let's talk a bit about branding. We're going to look at these 5 different areas right here inside of this lecture. And the first one is going to be your brand identity and your voice. This is just basically the visual elements that make up what you are, who you are. It's the logo that you're going to be working with and what's going to make up when people see things, that it feels like your brand. And we've seen this before. We understand this in a lot of different branding situations, from different fast food or regular food. Go to the supermarket. You know what Coca-Cola, what their branding looks like. Even know what Pepsi's branding looks like, even though it's a little bit more ambiguous, right? Because over time, that branding has really kind of got burned into your brain. One of the ones that I like to think about right now is Netflix. Netflix is just the letter N. It's this big red N. Nobody knew what that was before Netflix started. It just looked like a big letter N, right? Just like, wow, was this off Sesame Street? And then all of a sudden now everyone sees it and they're like, Netflix. Your project might not be as large and the audience might not be as large as Netflix, because they're kind of trying to, cater to everybody in the world. And it's a huge operation for that. Yours might be a little bit more niche, a little bit more small, and only those inside of your network or inside of your industry is going to be able to recognize your logos. But it's important to know and kind of tailor all this to that environment, to that audience. So using your visual identity for instant recognition, you also want to create that consistent tone for effective communication. We're going to talk a little bit about that as we go through this lecture. And then really the best thing that you can do for success is to study successful brand identities. And again, you can take a class on that. Maybe if you have an elective, you can look into taking a class that work on that, or an online class that's free or something like that. All these slides are going to be built in this way, where I have the importance and the why in here for you to kind of come back to as you're studying and building your project. But for the brand identities, establishing that visual and communicative personality for the brand. Find something that actually speaks to your brand, right? And then have consistency throughout to foster trust and loyalty amongst your audience. From there, you need to start thinking about your value proposition. This is really like, why you? What separates you or your company or your project or your freelancing apart from everybody else's? Why do we choose Coke over Pepsi for those of us who like Coke over Pepsi? It has something, it speaks to us. Sometimes it's a taste thing, like literally in that case, it's like one tastes better than the other. But sometimes it's a more intuitive thing, or maybe it's an idealistic thing, right? Something that you are doing is going to be speaking to your audience. So you want to highlight the importance of that differentiation and develop a process for identifying a compelling value proposition for yourself. And that begins with either yourself asking yourself this question, or getting together with your group if you have more than just yourself, of saying like, why would anybody care? What makes us different? What makes us stand out? And really championing that. Again, studying real world impactful value propositions would help. If that's not easy to come across, again, a class or something like that would be very, very helpful for you to look at that. But I think you're going to be able to find ones that are going to be working out, because there's probably companies and things that you can isolate and say, oh, this is better if not just because of preference or taste, but for ideals or for something else that draws you to it. So clearly, defining the unique value and helping and how it differentiates the brand from competitors are kind of the importance and the why. From there, you need to go further than just making the thing or making yourself or making the company. It's really engaging people through storytelling. And it's not so much like, let me tell you the background of our story and all these other things. You know, like those things can be compelling for people who might be motivated by listening to people's stories and championing those stories, but not everybody's like that. And telling your story is not only meant for those that are like the story driven people. Sometimes telling your story is about how you can make emotional connections with other people, and not so much about, you know, me, or us, here's our story, but more your audience and you. This is our story. How can we collectively start to build and make something better than what you've had before? So it's not so much like just love us because we're amazing and we have this backstory and this passion. That's great. A lot of people have backstories and passions, but you need to be able to tell your background and passion, how it relates to that audience, and you now have a shared story in existence. So this is going to be helpful if you really understand story structure. Sometimes you can kind of tap into that. So the power of storytelling to create those emotional connections. Those of you who are familiar with the Hexodus, which is my personal storytelling theory, I use the term called the upside down world, and we talk about those who have knowledge, ability, and tools versus those who don't. The upside down world is the what if world, the what if I could do something I've never done before. That's who your clients are. Either they're playing games they've never played before, watching movies they've never watched before, getting involved with collaborators they never worked with before, hiring somebody to work with their digital content that they've never had before. And so they're inviting you to be kind of part of their story inside of that upside down world, because you bring the knowledge, ability, and tools to improve their second act, if you will, of what's going on. Again, studying brands that build loyalty through storytelling is going to be absolutely important for you to be able to understand how to incorporate this for yourself. So spend some time doing that and looking at those things, or just think about it and talk about it amongst yourselves. Again, the importance and the why is creating emotional connection with an audience, and people remember stories better than the facts, especially if they're part of that story. And building that narrative builds a deeper and more memorable relationship with your audience. So after you have those things, getting the message out there is important. How you get that message out there is important. And there's a lot of different ways to do that. And we're going to call that platforming. And we're going to need to be consistent in our platforming. And a lot of you are going to start probably with social media. And that's what we're going to focus on in this class to kind of get that working. But this can also kind of morph into something more, into advertising, live promotions, and things like that. But just for this class, we're going to focus on social media platform consistency. So what we want to maintain that messaging and that logoing and that identity all throughout the different platforms that we're going to be using. So if a customer or a client or a contributor, collaborator comes to your Facebook page and to your Instagram page, they're not seeing two different versions of your company. They're seeing really the company that is you, but it might be tailored to a different audience. But the logo is still the same. The branding and the colors and things like that are mostly going to be very much the same. So aligning that content to maximize impact of consistency and of branding and recognition is important. And exploring strategies for ensuring consistency is going to be very important. Again, it's outside the scope of this class, but any kind of a design function of that is going to be very important. So if you want to look up how to do that, I would start looking up like how to make my designs universal across different platforms and things like that. But again, I think you're going to have a little bit more intuition with that. That's going to be enough for this class. And then again, when you go on to really champion this idea, I strongly recommend that you dive deep into some kind of class or training into that. If you're not hiring somebody to kind of do that branding for you, that's the stuff that they would really be doing. So again, maintaining a unified brand image across the platforms to build consistency and recognition, easier for your audience to identify and engage with your brand, regardless of what platform that you're on. After you have the platforms and you're there, you're going to start to see that your communities are going to start to connect with you. And so it's important that you build those relationships and you allow those connections to actually flourish. So you want to build that enjoyment and loyalty inside of your engagement with those people. So understanding your role in the community is going to be very important. Your role might be just on the back end. It might be a support role. It might be a leadership role. It might be just supplying fun things like a game or a movie, or just fun content just for people to kind of like spend their day on as they're eating their Cheerios in the morning. They're watching your content, enjoying it. You know where your role is and what your responsibility is with your community, and you can start to deliver that in a good way. So you want to start developing those strategies as well, really understanding and getting into the mind of your community to be able to start building that. And again, study brands with strong community connections is going to be a very good way to do this. Again, importance and why: foster a sense of belonging and loyalty, and then a connected community becomes brand advocates. What you'd really like to see is people you don't want to see your advertising reach new people. I mean, you do want to see that, but you probably would get a lot more traction by people going, hey, did you check out this new thing that I found? Or someone comes to them and says, wow, that's a really great project. How did you make that happen? Oh, I collaborated with this person, and now they've got your contact information, and you're building those kinds of advocates with what you're trying to bring to the industry. So those are the 5 things that we're going to be talking about there. And really it's about building that digital presence for the rest of this lecture. To do that, we're going to focus on these 6 areas. And the first one is actually naming your project. Now, a lot of you have already named your project because we started with one and you have a name from the first time that we presented projects. But you might feel like you need to update that, or that it doesn't actually speak the brand, or maybe you made some changes. So can start to consider that again and look at and see if that branding is actually what you want. The other thing that really is important about doing this, and we're going to look at a website here in just a second, is the branding or the name or what you've already decided for your branding might not be available to you. It might already be trademarked. It might already have the www dot that you want might already be gone, and all the Facebook branding and social media branding might already be taken. And so you have to update or change that name. So you want to consider the significance of your well-chosen project name, right? That's going to work across all the platforms, both written, communicated through word, through video, however else you're going to be delivering your messaging to your audience, and different considerations for a resonant name. So don't just select one. And a lot of times it's important to kind of have a few and then kind of test them out and see which ones really work for you, because there might be some things that feel good to you. Maybe there's like an inside joke to a name that you're selecting, or some nostalgic reason why you're selecting that, but then audiences might not appreciate that so much. And I got a personal story for that at the end. Again, studying examples of effective project names is going to be helpful for you. Importance and why is first point of contact a lot of times is the name, and a well-chosen name can be very memorable with your audience. If you need to, and you don't need to do this for this class, but further on down the road, developing a website will be part of the process. Now, for this class, you will select a possible domain name. You are not supposed to spend any money on it. You can if you want to, but I'm not requiring you to make that purchase in this class. But having a good website is going to be important. And building a website consists of a couple of things. One, you need to have the domain name. So whatever the www.blah-blah-blah.com or .org or .whatever it is that you want. And then you're going to have a place to host that. So like GoDaddy or HostZinger, or there's 1,000 of them that I'm just blanking probably because I'm on camera right now and I'm trying to think about them. But there's a lot of different places that you can host these websites. Wix is a really good one, because Wix, you can buy the domain and you can host it, but that hosting can also come with a builder. It's called a WYSIWYG builder. WYSIWYG is an acronym of what you see is what you get, WYSIWYG. And it's basically like an InDesign or like a quick like drag and drop design kind of a process for a website. They're going to charge you to use that service. Obviously, you're going to be charged for the domain name. You're going to be charged for the hosting. So having a website can get pretty expensive, There are some ways to make it a little bit less expensive. Again, you're not supposed to spend a single dime on this class on creating a website. That's something that's extra for you if you go that route as you move forward. You can have somebody hire somebody to create a website for you. You can collaborate with another student, maybe that's doing web design, and perhaps barter with them. Hey, I'll take some family photos of you if you build me a website. Those kinds of things, because you're studying creative media, and maybe photography is part of a skill set that you have that they don't, and they might see that to be an equitable kind of relationship to have. And you both get to kind of build your reels and your portfolios at the same time. So don't ever be afraid to do those kind of barters, especially as students. It can be very, very valuable to you. You want to incorporate the elements of effective websites. That changes almost all the time, and it's very subjective. What I think is a successful website, someone else will say is really not. So I'm going to leave that up to you to find for yourself and your audience. And you want to develop and use tools and platforms for development of needed higher web designer, like I said. So the importance and the why is a digital storefront and central hub for information. They get to contact you. They get to find contact information, possibly see rates or purchase products, depending on what you're making and what you're offering. And a user-friendly and well-designed website enhances credibility as well. And if it looks really, really good, it looks legit, then you start to look legit. So keep that in mind how that works. You're going to also want to have a robust social media strategy and a plan on implementing social media. You want to focus on the platforms that the audience is going to use. So if you're looking at an older demographic here in 2024, meaning like the 40-year-olds, 50-year-olds kind of generation right now, Facebook is still kind of the champion for them. Younger generations might be Instagram, but even younger generations from them, they're probably not even on Instagram anymore. They're on TikTok. And right now, as of this date, there's a big kind of like push for TikTok to be banned across the country. And so these moves and these shifts in the social media landscape are going to be part of your life. So staying in tune with those is going to be important. Who knows where that's at after this recording, but just, at this time in life, that's where we're at. You want to consider crafting a content calendar for consistency, which we'll look at here in this class. You will develop a content calendar, even though it's just a plan, and you don't have to start uploading, according to that plan just yet. You'll have a couple of posts by the end of this semester just to kind of get the wheels kind of going a little bit. But having a robust calendar can be helpful. And studying organizations that excel in social media is going to help you in your brand strategy. Again, this social media strategy is probably a major within itself. This slide right here can be a whole new career for a lot of people. So if you don't feel comfortable getting into it, find somebody who is, start to learn a little bit new skills or things like that. And I think you'll be doing pretty good. So the importance and the why, connecting with a broader audience drives engagement, and social media is a powerful tool. Obviously, we all know that. Building a brand awareness and engaging with our audience in a certain way. Email marketing is kind of not as popular now. It's a little bit spammy, but it's still something that's very heavily used. Again, depending on the demographics that you're going for. But using your email for these communications, you might want to consider that. You might want to build and maintain an email list associated maybe with a newsletter, and have that incorporated on your website. Sign up for a newsletter, get some updates. And those updates might just be updates on social media that kind of just puts it in the inbox of people so they can say, oh, let me stay up to date with this company. And maybe not everybody is going to stay up to date with your email because they're not checking email regularly or it's just going to spam. But you might hit a good demographic of your audience that way. Again, incorporating newsletters and campaigns can be effective, and studying email marketing. Again, that's another major probably somewhere in the world. So the importance and the why, direct communication with the audience is important, and email marketing allows personalization communication that you can move forward with. We're going to talk a little bit about a company called ClickFunnels here towards the end of this lecture. They primarily use emailing as a way of doing their marketing, and people who use ClickFunnels or the ClickFunnels kind of framework can be very, very, very successful. So don't discredit email marketing, and go ahead and look into to ClickFunnels. I personally don't like it. It feels a little scammy to me, but we can talk about that individually. Just kind of do your own research on it. It's a little aggressive. It's kind of, here's the free thing. Now give me more money, give me more money, give me more money. You kind of appeal to emotion, and like, making people feel like they're going to miss out. If you don't buy this now, you're never going to get this deal again. But the deal is all the time. It's kind of dishonest. So choose the way that you engage with your audience the way you want to. Have your morals and your principles. I have mine. I'm happy to share that with you if you're ever looking for some guidance. Search engine optimization, SEO, is very important, especially if you want to be found on like Google or any of the other search engines that are out there. You want to make sure that your information comes to the top. It's difficult now, especially with AI and sponsored advertising inside of Google searches. Those things usually take up like the first half a page, if not the first full page. So getting your content up there could be challenging, but understanding the importance of keywords and how they work in your website building and social media building, so that when people are searching for you is important. And then incorporating an on-page and off-page SEO. SEO is search engine optimization, is kind of the best practice, and that'll be done through your hosting service and your website building. So that would be, if you're not sure how to do that, that's where you have somebody who's building your website do that a little bit more. I'm gonna be honest, I'm still kind of a novice at this myself with my own personal stuff. I'm constantly going and asking people like, how can I do this better? Learning it up, kind of seeing where the trends are going, because you got to be really on your game for search engine optimization, especially with the changing atmosphere that's happening online all the time. So exploring ways of measuring and adapting SEO strategies is important because it's going to change probably next week. So importance and why: increase visibility in search engines, and means you have more traffic coming to your site, a wider audience, and you can be able to deliver specific content, services or products to your audience in a way. From there, you're going to also do digital advertising. This is paid advertising through platforms. It could be social media, but it could also be like through YouTube or maybe traditional media, those kinds of things. So you want to incorporate different digital advertising platforms. It could be a commercial that comes on during the middle of a basketball game in the middle of March, right? Everyone's watching, well, not everybody, but a lot of people are watching, March Madness going on. And when they have those local commercials, they're like, brought to you by this local company that's starting up. Have you ever wanted to build your business better or get involved with media better or something like that? If you feel like that's an important or a valuable way to go, you can always do an actual commercial, things like that. But be smart about it. Look into the return on investment. That's called ROI, and that's the second bullet point. So target specific demographics for better ROI. Sometimes TV is not going to help you, especially if people aren't watching TV a whole lot. And YouTube might not help, and Instagram might, TikTok might help, but TikTok might not be here anymore. All those things you have to start considering and thinking about as you move forward with what you're working on. You also have to budget and measure the effectiveness of your ads. That can be tricky sometimes. A television ad can be a lot of like upfront expenses, just something like a 30-second ad could cost you thousands of dollars, but having targeted, pinpointed Facebook ads might cost you just $5 a week. And that it's going to be going to whatever the algorithm says it's going to go to. So kind of weigh the pros and cons of those things if you get to this point, working on your advertising moving forward. The importance and the why: expanding reach and target specific expands reach and targets specific demographics. And then paid advertising accelerates your brand visibility. Obviously, more people that will see it will maybe recognize it, and then you can get some more customers out of that and be able to work that way. So I'm going to actually go back a couple of slides here to this one. More importantly here, naming your project, website developments, and stuff. I just want to kind of share a little bit of my personal, just real quick kind of stories just on a couple of these. Number one is naming your project. So we've been looking at Fermata Films in this class is what I've been using. When I started that company in Las Vegas back in early 20, the double aught years, right? Like 2009, 2010-ish. My buddy who I started it with, he wasn't really feeling the word fermata, even though I loved it. And I think it's really great that the fermata is that thing in music that sustains the note. And that's what my ideal was. That was my story, was that I was trying to help the client, in this case, these actors, sustain their career through the use of these reels. But he didn't feel like a fermata was a very widely understood symbol, or at least word. We kept the symbol, and so we kind of played on the word a little bit, and we called it filmata. I didn't like it. And to this day, I don't like it. And we ran with it for almost 10 years and I still don't like it. And so when we kind of moved away from that project, we kind of separated. Just not we're still friends and we still collaborate and talk. I'm actually going to Vegas to see him in a couple of weeks, but we're geographically just, located in different places. So we don't have the opportunities anymore. That kind of fizzled away. And so now I was able to reclaim it. And now I have Fermata being my own thing again. And so we'll see who was right. I'm just really passionate about the ideal that came behind that. And then going back to the digital advertising and looking at ads and target specific ads, a buddy of mine in Missouri has the Drone Pro Academy. I think that's what it's called. If you look it up and it's not that, I'll feel like a complete jerk for not remembering his business. But when we were talking one day, he did the ClickFunnels thing. We'll talk about it in a second. And he makes about $900,000 a year, according to our last conversation. But out of those $900,000, about $700,000 of it goes back into advertising. So he's really making $200,000 a year, which is fantastic money. That's great money. But he has to put in $700,000 a year in advertisements so that he can make that money. And that is not uncommon when it comes to having some kind of a creative business out there. So just a couple of personal stories, a little bit about how some of this actually applies. So these tools here are really good if you want to look at for name and identity, name check. Notice how it's spelled CHK. And then color.adobe.com is great for like coming up with colors for your logos and things. Fonts, these are some free fonts that you can download into any of your software applications of your choice. How to come up with your brand story, you can look at these. Some of them are worksheets, some of them are just kind of ways to think about it. And email and online marketing here. This one down here is that ClickFunnels to look at. And then MailChimp is really good. That's the email one. That's good about setting up things and it comes out in certain intervals and connects with your audience. But what I want to show you is this name check. So here at namecheck.com, you can put in a name here and search and then click I'm not a robot and then verify there's no cars left, car. We're just training the matrix every day. One more eternity. There we go. And let's say you wanted to do Tommy Films, right? .com, because my name's Tommy and I do films. And I'm going to click search and we're going to see that, TommyFilms.com is already registered. Darn. Now I got to make a decision. Am I going to be comfortable with an .org or .tv or .us or a .biz info or any of those other things? Maybe there's more options here. TommyFilms.pizza. I don't know. Some of these are weird. TommyFilms.tattoo, Tommy Films Inc. There's a lot of weird ones. Tommy Films Black Friday is registered. So a lot of these are already there. So that's kind of like a bummer for me because I really, really wanted that .com. But also I can come all the way down here to the bottom and I can check my usernames on different social media sites. I'm gonna click search more and do another search more here so we can kind of see where it's at. Well, we're going to see that Tommy Films is already on Facebook and YouTube and Twitter and Twitch and Reddit and Vimeo and Cash Me if that was important to me and all these other ones, Fiverr and PayPal. These are all ones that I might want to use in the future. So looking at that and I can say, okay, Tommy Films is what I wanted to be. Maybe that's not the best option for me. I'm going to look at fermatafilms.com just because I know that one's going to be registered because I own fermatafilms.com and I have all of these other already established with it. I use Vimeo over YouTube for Fermata Films. So this is just a great way for us to be able to look at those things and see what's actually available. So double check your branding and make sure that your branding is working here using that site. So let me go back to Photoshop. Here we go. ClickFunnels is that one that I was telling you about. This is actually a really great way to kind of get started, especially if you're creating like a service or like a product to give to people. Like I said, my buddy who's doing the drone work does a lot with ClickFunnels. Let's just minimize this. I got a lot of tabs open. And you can kind of see what ClickFunnels does. There it is. Basically, it's here's a product that we have, and you get to have it for free. Trying to find like their, oh, here we go. This is probably the best thing here. And really what it is, it's like, oh, after you see the free thing, it's cool. But for $20, you can get this more than free thing. But if you act right now for $300, you also get this other thing that's actually $900 unless you buy it right now. And then so on, so on, so on, so on, and so on, until you kind of like keep clicking through the funnels, smart name, right? And getting into that product. So that may or may not be the thing that you want to do with that. All right, so now that you've got all that taken care of and you know what you're doing, let's look at our social media sites and what those are actually going to be. So number one is Facebook. That's just kind of the champion right now as of 2024. You might not be on Facebook very much, but 30, 40-year-olds, 50-year-olds are on Facebook. And a lot of those people are still very heavily involved in the industry. And a lot of them are going to be the ones that are going to be hiring you. So having a good Facebook presence is going to be important, at least to that demographic still. So it's, at least for now, right? Who knows what's going to happen? So you're going to have a large base to be able to reach out, very diverse advertising options. They want to keep it as easy as possible for you to advertise for as long as you can. And the analytics for a business page is outstanding because you can kind of see everything that's going around your business. It's more than just having a personal page or like an extra page, like a fan page or something like that. But you can really start to track what you're doing as a business, and it's all free currently. The organic reach has decreased over time, especially with younger people. Younger demographics are declining. And if your target audience is a general audience, but effective for the business targeting adults, like a little bit older that are running businesses and hiring, this is probably where you want to go. Instagram has been kind of like the main one for a little while, but it's starting to phase out a little bit. It's very visual centric as a platform. So it's very eyes on, very heavy traffic involvement. You're going to get very high engagement rates, especially with younger demographics. And it has a growing influencer market opportunities, kind of matching what Facebook has, especially with how connected they are. Their algorithm changes affect content visibility. It's very much tailored to the user, and it's tailored to keeping the user addicted to keeping their eyes on the phone or the screen, most likely a phone. So it's not necessarily best for advertising purposes, even though that does help, and you probably see a lot of that. But how many times do you see something and blow past it, and then 5 minutes later you forget it because your brain is already engaged with some other content? So just know that that's going to happen to the users that you're trying to target as well. And there's not a whole lot of link options and inside the platform just yet. That could change, but we'll see. Again, younger demographics, millennials and Gen Zers are going to be heavily on Instagram. X or Twitter or whatever it's called now, by the time you're watching this, has real-time engagement, hashtags for content discoverability. So that's kind of fun to have those hashtags. And then direct communication with the audience is very good for like keeping that conversation flowing. Even though the character limit has increased over time, it's still kind of limited with what you can and can't see, especially without like expanding on things. Sometimes you don't get to see the full thing unless you click it. And then there is a lot of volume when it comes to Twitter, so you can get lost really quick. Target audience being news enthusiasts, professionals, and those looking for real-time updates would work. So this may or may not work for your branding, but go ahead and think about it. Snapchat's another one that may or may not work, but it exists, right? Focuses on, kind of connecting with our audience in a more unique way. Younger demographic again. They use a little bit of AR in their advertising, which is kind of cool. The limited lifespan is kind of a weakness, and a smaller audience compared to other options. I never really saw Snapchat as a viable tool for myself, but you might be able to find really awesome ways to use it. And sometimes I like to challenge and say, what if Snapchat was the best thing for your business? What would that look like? And then if your mind can come up with that and what it would look like, boom, make that happen. Again, younger demographics are going to be there. TikTok is still the fastest growing and one of the most widely used, especially with younger generation, Gen Zs. Again, at the time of this recording, there's some legislation going through Congress, at least the House, moving to Congress, that's looking to possibly ban TikTok in the United States unless the company that owns it sells it and they start to operate just a little bit differently. So keep your ear to that and how it works, or just enjoy this relic of the past if TikTok doesn't exist anymore when this video is being watched by you. But again, short-term video content is really popular. So if you can make that work on this platform, you're great. You've got a very young, engaged user base. Again, TikTok is just meant for people to do this all day long and zombify themselves. So part of me feels bad just teaching all this, because we kind of become a little bit of the problem with some of that. Let's just be real, right? And what's happening in our society and with young minds. There's a high potential for to become viral with your TikTok videos, but it's starting to become, I don't know. Part of that is also challenging because if everyone's trying to become viral, it's like, again, small fish in a giant pond kind of things. Limited link sharing options are kind of a weakness. Very trend dependent content. So you might get buried if you're not, something that's trending. And sometimes it might force you to start have a voice, or to start have a demographic, or campaigning on something that's not necessarily you, just because you need to have that traffic. So please be principled. Predominantly young demographics, Gen Zers, are going to be on TikTok. Here's a list of a dozen, or like almost a dozen more, 24 more that you could be working with. Not all these are going to be good for everything you're going to use, but go ahead and check it out. Again, on that name check site, if you go down to the bottom where those social media apps are, try to find some that you never heard of before, and see if maybe those are going to help for you. When it comes to video, YouTube is still the best option for video. Well, one of the best options for video. I can't say it's the best, but it's still very popular and one of the better options. Again, video content popularity is very high. It's the second largest search engine. Google's number one, but a lot of times people will just go to YouTube just to search, not to look up a specific video, but just to do a search on, like, what is the truth about this event that I saw, or this, what are people saying about this current event, or what is this new game that's coming out? Like, they're not Googling it. They're looking for influencers, and they're looking for the community of YouTube to kind of give them that information. So very, very high traffic for YouTube. Opportunities for long-form content as well. You can put long videos on there, and it's relatively cheap, free for most people. Requires time and effort for video production, so you can upload it. So you're going to spend time on that. And the ad revenue may be primary monetization method. If ad revenue is your primary monetization method, there could be some weaknesses in there. It can be kind of challenging. So if you're looking for diverse audiences, especially those seeking video content, YouTube is where you're going to go. Vimeo is another really great source. They were kind of a really strong competitor with YouTube until recently. They kind of changed their pricing model, and I think it's made them a little weaker. So it's going to cost you a little bit of money, but Vimeo is still a really good choice. Their strengths are their high quality video hosting and streaming. They're focused on professional and artistic content. So that's a lot of us in this class. We're professional and artistic people, and we're trying to make those kinds of that kind of content. And they have customizable video player and branding options. The weaknesses are limited potential for organic discovery, because it's not really meant to be a discovery tool. It's a tool where you have your videos kind of hosted and you share. People don't go to Vimeo to find new things. So that's kind of, that's what YouTube's for. And then monetization options are, you can only do those if you're on a paid plan. If you want monetization options on your videos. So that might be changing now with some of the pricing changes. Not that it's going to go away, but I think all their plans are going to be starting to move to monetization plans. Where you have to like pay for them. So filmmakers, videographers, and any other content creators, that's a target audience. My personal thought on the difference between YouTube and Vimeo is YouTube is a place for people to go to discover things that you can put there and share and have a wide audience. You have to be okay with people being distracted by the related content that's down the side of the video with the forever existing text input that's underneath, the chat that's underneath, the pop-ups, the ads, and those kinds of things that are kind of distracting from what you're trying to do. Vimeo is a lot more professional. So if you want more professional video on there, if you want to have a website that doesn't have those ads, you want to embed your content from Vimeo so it looks pristine and very professional and it doesn't feel like YouTube, that's the route you're going to go. So one is more for like content that you're okay with that distraction. Vimeo is more for like being a little bit more professional. That's my 2 cents. Look into it yourself and see which one works best for you. All right, so what we covered, and then I'm going to go over an example with the Filmata or the Firmata stuff. Got me saying Filmata, so now I'm saying it now because I've been saying it so long. We looked at branding and digital presence, and we looked at those social media sites. So right now we are in week 10, and we're working on our marketing strategies for our projects. We're almost there. We only have a few more weeks, and then you'll have a really robust plan for your projects. So I hope you're really excited and proud of yourselves for what you're doing. So here's an example of what you'll have on the presentation, just a couple of slides. I know we went over a lot. It's kind of what this class is all about. I'm giving you everything that you need to know, and we're packaging it into what we can do this semester with the hope that these seeds are getting planted and you go on and make your wonderful projects come to life if they're actually something that you want to do. So here are the brandings that I chose, the typography that I use, and you'll find typography. It'll be just these 2 options here. You can have more than 2, but I just want to see 2. I use Lotto. Lotto is kind of like my go-to font for everything. It's more because it's a very good font for dyslexic people, so they say. So I'm like, as a teacher, I'm like, I want to have as many benefits as I can. And I got kind of hooked on Lotto, and so I use it for a lot of different things. You can read this story here if you'd like. Here is the logo. This is the Firmata with a camera in the middle, and I went back again with Firmata Films. Keeping with the idea of music. Music is usually black notes on a white piece of paper, so I went with a black and white. And to keep some value in there, I went with some gray themes as well to go with my branding. So my branding is monochromatic in black and white tones with that as my logo. And then the second thing you're going to work on for this part of the project is coming up with your top 3 social media sites, website, and other sites that you might consider. So here's my Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, and what they're going to be used for, kind of the primary use of those. My website, again, you don't have to purchase it. If it's available, you can put it here. If it's not available, but later on you want to buy it off of somebody, put it on here. Just make us know. Just be like, hey, I want to do Coca-Cola.com, but it's not available, and I plan on getting the money to buy it one of these days. That's fine. Don't do Coca-Cola.com. You probably never get it. And then to have a couple other sites down here that are not part of your main ones, but ones that you're also considering. So for me, it'd be YouTube and Vimeo. And that's pretty much it for this one. So let me know if you have any questions. We'll get back into class, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your however long it is until we see each other again, and keep doing awesome things. See ya.